Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Perth County Council this 21st day of September. I'd like to call our meeting to order. If everyone can please bow their head for a reflection. Thank you. Read our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Perth County is situated on the traditional land of the Onondaga Bay, with a long-standing relationship with the land and water throughout the region. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse and Inuit people who call this territory home. As a county, we have the responsibility for reconciliation and the continued stewardship of the land in which we live and we work. Okay, if you have just pecuniary interest, you can disclose that now as the meeting goes along. First motion is to accept the agenda. September 21, 2023, agenda be by Councillor Aitchison, second by Councillor Orr. Favor? Carried. Okay, we have 8 items on our consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to hold or they have questions on? No? Okay, so council receives the consent agenda item 6.1 to 6.8 and approves the September 7, 2023 council minutes. Moved by Councillor Kassenberg, second by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we do not have any public meetings, hearings, or delegations, so we're going right to staff reports. And the first one under the CAO is the recruitment and selection policy upgrades. Marion is with Crystal this morning. So, morning, ladies, welcome. And the floor is yours.
Great. So thanks for having us through the warning. I'll go first with the recruitment policy. I think the report is right. The reason we didn't include the old policy was it was there wasn't much that was used from the previous policy. The last policy was updated in 2011 and it contained a lot of process. So in terms of how to complete an offer letter, the ages of employees. So there was a lot of outdated and stale dated information, as well as the old policy also included some restrictions and stipulations, which we already put in the terms and conditions of employment. So it was considered redundant. Already, we make our job offers tailored to the job that the individual has applied for. So if an individual is going to be driving a corporate vehicle, it's already in their offer letter, they have to provide a driver's abstract. And then we have policies internally that would go for maintenance. So we check driver's abstracts on a regular basis for criminal record checks for insurance purposes. All new hires coming in provide a criminal record check satisfactory to the county. And so things like that. So those process pieces were removed from the policy. And then we also then made our commitment to continuing to hire in a way that is promotes fairness, transparency, and equity. And so we already do that today, but that was lacking. We didn't have a statement that that is how the county hires and operates. So that has been added to our policy. And then the last thing that was asked to review was, who would be on our hiring panels. So we didn't actually make any changes already in the policy. It was basically for council. If council wants to be included in the interview, the one position that council is responsible for is the CAO. However, for a director position, we've left the option that a committee could be appointed by council. And so we would bring that committee, the hiring committee here. Outside of that, are there any questions today?
Okay, questions of the report? Councillor McDermott.
And to reduce barriers, can you give me an example of what you consider barriers?
Yeah, so sometimes in the way how we recruit for certain positions, so making everything solely online or through, for example, when recruiting for planners, we have to be aware not everyone necessarily has the same access to certain websites. So we're broadening our search. So when we source candidates, you're using a more multifaceted approach. For snowplow operators, we still use newspaper. That still seems to be more popular, as well as online, and then many free job search engines we also use, and local searches. And then for positions that have more mobility, we're actually sort of reaching out and then indicating our flexible work policies. So hopefully breaking down some of the barriers for people who are really qualified who may not apply to us as well. New this year, we've also been attending, well now that COVID has stabilized, we're doing job fairs. So we were just at a recruitment event for paramedic services, again, giving out information about our programs and offerings. So we're trying to show that we are more open and flexible in the ways that we actually recruit and hire.
And when you have the employees on the hiring committee, if you want to call it that, like how do you choose the employees?
So normally, if it's for a manager role, it would be their direct supervisor and then a member of HR. And then for below a manager level, it would be their immediate supervisor. And then depending on what level of position, usually it would be an HR person, but say, for example, it's a student, the division could hire for themselves. So they could have 2 individuals. We work with the hiring managers to ensure that our questions don't violate any regulations or legislation. And then we go through what can and can be asked of the candidates. So every hiring manager does have parameters, and then we get all the information back. So, when you're hiring, you're completing work recruitment booklet. So just an evaluation. And then we do keep that in accordance with our records retention policy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Castleberg?
So is it the intention of Human Resources to apprise County Council of director hiring panels being convened so that council can make a decision about whether to place a councillor into that committee?
I think ideally it would be to endorse our selection for who would be on that committee. And again, we don't want to delay the process. So I think also in speaking with Lori, if that could be an email process, that could just, we don't want to delay, especially in this type of hiring market. So we would advise, and then if there were any concerns, we would be looking for that feedback.
Other questions? I have one. I'm wanting to know what council thinks of adding that the mayor or the warden or the deputy warden may sit on the committee, and it's their discretion whether they want to, or managers, directors. Councillor Castleberg?
I'm not in favor of that. I think that the organization, the staffing of the organization is the responsibility of the CAO. The buck stops there. And if the CAO feels strongly that they wish to bring someone from council into the process, then that would be their prerogative. But ultimately, I think that errors in staffing that lead to problems the CAO should be held accountable. It is a staff process. Ultimately, it's the CAO that reports to this council.
Councillor McDermott?
I would half agree, but I think on some of the hiring, the warden should be there, because I think there should also be political oversight for some of the hirings.
Okay, I know I'm not supposed to give my comments as chair, but I'm going to do if that's ever. Oh, Councillor Aitchison?
I somewhat agree with Councillor Castleberg. So in Perth South, we've hired a new CAO and different individuals, I think. And ultimately, I think Marion Price has said this in her report. So council's only really responsible and has one employee, and that's the CAO. So we had a committee of 3 from council, Councillor Orr, myself, and Councillor Will. We're the 3 that did the interviewing and everything. And then once we're now hiring a roads foreman and some other people, all I find out is, I know yesterday they were doing 7 interviews for roads foreman. I have no idea who they were even doing. Ultimately, I just said, if you want to run some of the names by me for you and make a selection, something I might know that you're not aware of, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. So like, I'm not involved as the mayor at all in that hiring process. And I to some degree, I think it's maybe, Rhonda has a point when she says, like, maybe, but sometimes us as individuals in the community kind of know some of these individuals that are applying for work, but in all honesty, the way people are moving around now, we had a person apply for a roads foreman job that I would, not even from this area, and he's got 20 years experience. Like, we're like, wow. That's just CAO, or the CAO told me that he had 20 years experience and lots of supervising skills, and it said, go for it. Do what you want.
I will just, through the warden, I will just call attention to the benchmarking. So we are in line in terms of council would sit on the interview panel when recruiting for the CAO. And that was through West Perth, Perth East and North Perth. That was the policies that we gathered.
Well, it may be the policy, but in Perth East, I was part of the CAO. I am also part of all the managers. When they hire, I'm part of that panel. So just so everyone knows.
CAO, you ultimately have to be responsible.
Yeah. Mr. Smith?
So the way, I mean, through the warden, this is written now. The warden could sit in.
Should,
Being advised of what's going to happen, whether we're hiring whoever.
for the director, yes. For positions below the director, no.
Okay, anyone else? What does council wish to do? We do have a motion. I'll read it. We'll see where it goes. Council receives the recruitment selection policy update report. Council approves recruitment and selection policy update. Made by Councillor Kassenberg, second by Councillor McKenzie. Those in favor? Okay, the next report is vacation and statutory holiday policy updates.
Good morning, Ward Neggets and members of council. Through the warden, the report before you pertains to the county's vacation and statutory holiday policy. This is HR policy 2-6 for non-union staff. And we're looking to update our policy based on a number of different factors. Over the last few years, we are noticing that new hires are typically negotiating a higher vacation rate in order to leave their current employer to come to the county. So we are looking to start their vacation at the 3-week mark. And research does show that today's workforce values personal time off, utilizing vacation time as an opportunity to achieve a better work-life balance and ultimately decrease their stress. Employee vacation is not only important to the individual and their family, but also to the organization as it does assist with less turnover, fewer sick days, and lower healthcare costs. After benchmarking 9 municipalities, we did update, we're looking to update the non-union policy to reflect the following. Again, that new hires would receive and start at 3 weeks vacation and then increase 1 week every 5 years to a max of 6. The current vacation policy also has a max of 6 weeks implemented. And regarding payout, vacation payout, parameters have been put in place to restrict vacation payout to the month of December. And this will ensure the payout is at the current rate of pay instead of any future increases. Typically, we do not see non-union staff requesting a payout. They typically use their time for relaxation and recharging. And as noted in the report, we aren't making any suggested changes to the county statutory holiday dates as we are currently observing what other municipalities are observing. An incentive for staff to remain with the county would be to have this flexibility and the opportunity to have vacation time. And I welcome any questions that you may have at this time.
Any questions? Councillor Aitchison?
So just a quick question. Remembrance Day is not really considered a statutory holiday for the county. But I know the lower tiers all recognize that as a statutory holiday. We don't know West Perth doesn't, we're South does, we're East not, not we're South does. Because, one time I said, well, talk to the county about that tomorrow, and I says, well, it's Remembrance Day. And you go, yeah, we're off tomorrow. So it's just Perth South that does that? Wow.
Through the warden, we do.
Ask if they all show up to a service though. And most of them do.
Through the board, and we do offer floater days, which one would be accounted for Remembrance and the other for Easter Monday. And that allows for our business to remain operational during those days and flexibility to use those days elsewhere within the year.
Other questions? I have one. So how many people have we paid out that didn't take their holidays?
Last year it was 2 1 week sessions for 2 individuals.
And how long did we pay, like, for 2 weeks?
And just 1 week.
1 week?
That was just because of COVID, there was a bit of backlog and they weren't able to take their vacation. And in speaking with the individuals, while our policy, and I had brought to council, I believe, maybe last year or the year before, just mentioning, is that something that we wanted to, make it mandatory to use vacation and year accrued? And it was decided then that that wasn't of interest, but, having it paid out at the current year's pay instead of carrying it over, presented, it created less liability for the corporation.
So does a report come to council so council knows that before it happens?
No, it's the CAO approves. It is quite limited in nature. In our semi-annual metrics report, I do report back on how much vacation time staff have in terms of the divisions, not individuals. So
the CEO could give someone 5 weeks of paid vacation if they didn't take it?
if they didn't take it, it is possible. I don't think staff actually have that much unless they're planning to use it for as a bridge for retirement, which has been done in the past.
Anyone else with questions? Council receives a vacation and statutory holiday public policy update, and council approves a vacation and statutory holiday policy update.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to think somebody could say carry over 5 weeks or get paid out 5. They don't carry over, they get paid out.
You only get paid out when you leave the corporation or if you made a request.
So they just carry them over.
Correct. That is,
The only problem I have with that does create quite a liability for the corporation. Because all of a sudden you get somebody 6 weeks holidays and they carry 5 weeks over, they're looking at 3 months of potential holidays the following year. But if everybody's happy, then they're fine.
and a
Just create a liability.
Yeah, vacation always needs to be approved from your immediate supervisor. So usually when people are carrying over vacation, they already have that chat with their supervisor saying, planning for this. So that way they, the operational impacts are limited. So, it has not historically been an issue here.
So just so I understand it better, so you get paid out. So if I didn't take my holidays, I get paid to work and I get paid my holiday pay. So actually I'm double dipping. Everybody get paid holiday pay. So I understand it better.
No, you can,
It's okay.
so every year you get an allocation of vacation. Let's just use 3 weeks. If you didn't use your 3 weeks that year, let's say you use 2, so you have 1 week left. You could opt in December to have that paid out or carry it over to the next year.
Because my world works different than everyone else's, but anyway. Councilmember?
Sorry, I know you have a motion that's pending here. I just want to check my assumptions. So what is the maximum carryover period? So I carry over 5 days into next year and then I accumulate another 5 days. So now I have 10 days and can I keep carrying that over or have a hard date that says, okay, 18 months, that's the maximum carry?
No, there isn't a hard date. So once we can only sort of map, in the system, your vacation that you've carried over for a certain period of time. And then, you're going to start using and don't know which is the accrual from years past versus this year. So basically what it is it just gets added to your bank. And then by the end of the year, we will know what you have left.
I think I'm going to echo Councillor Aitchison's comment then. I think there's a liability that's being created over the long term for continuing to allow that accumulation of, and that makes me uncomfortable. I think we should be looking at injecting some clause or policy in here that says sooner or later, whether it's 18 months or whatever, you're going to have to be paid out or use it, and the preference is to use it. I'm not totally comfortable with allowing vacations to accumulate ad infinitum for years and years if that's what's happening. So
Okay,
if I may, I mean, we don't even have a secondary yet.
we don't have a mover, so if you
Yeah,
want to
exactly.
change it or add it,
I'm thinking we should perhaps request staff bring this back to us with some approach to provisions around a runway, if you will, for vacation payouts, because there's a little bit of a challenge here. I think in North Perth, we've crossed that bridge now. We've come up with policy that sort of puts an end date so that vacations can't continually accumulate and just be sort of held. And so I'd like to suggest that we refer this back to staff for a little bit of more work on the vacation policy with an intent to try to find closure at some point so that we're not creating a liability that Councillor Aitchison has referenced.
yeah, Councillor Duncan, I'll let him speak first and then we'll.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with my two colleagues that have spoke about this. I think that unlimited rollover of this vacation is dangerous in a long-term liability sense. So I agree. I'd like to send this back and have staff come back with some options for us to put an end date on how long we can roll vacation over. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Then okay, we'll do this again. Council receives a vacation and statutory holiday policy update, and that staff bring a report back on holiday end dates. Or how do you want to word it?
Accumulation or end.
Accumulation of vacation days.
Okay, accumulation or end dates.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody good with that? Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Kassenberg, second by Councillor Trinkowski. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, just for staff, I know where I'm employed, we looked at this and it took 3 years, I think, to get to that end date. So come up with some kind of a, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, but no. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks, ladies.
Thanks.
Now we're going to move to corporate services, and we're going to have the corporate services update, and Lori's going to do that. Lori, the floor is yours.
I am. Thank you very much. My apologies for not being there today in person. I have a pretty nasty cough, so I don't want to pass that on to anyone. So Annette is actually away today and asked me just to speak to her report. This is a housekeeping report. It comes on a monthly basis, and it outlines some of the key activities performed in each of the departments over the previous month. So the report is before you. She's asked if there are any questions that are specific that she would be able to answer. She would bring that back. If there's something I can answer, that would be great. So the report is before you.
Okay, thanks, Lori. Any questions of the report? Councillor McDermott?
Yes, under professional development, Annette was on a panel, something preparing for the hardest conversations. The program focused on preparing self and co-regulation, role power, and trauma-informed communication. Exactly kind of what was
Here, sorry.
it's on page 49 of our report.
Okay, so that would be a webinar or a conference in terms of preparing or training managers or directors, leaders in getting ready to have the hardest conversations, or when you're dealing with staff and you're bringing them bad news, perhaps about their performance. So it talks about that type of thing, or if there's some trauma that you're trying to deal with your staff, if your staff have experienced trauma, then we want to make sure that we handle that properly. So this is a self-development workshop. We've had other workshops to be able to have staff learn methods to convey bad information or negative information that would be perceived that way, in order to ensure staff know what their performance is and where they need to improve. Not every conversation we have with staff. I wish it was always good news that things are going great. Sometimes you'll have conversations where you need to express that you're dissatisfied with particular service. And we want to make sure we do that properly as leaders. I can have Annette speak to that when she's reporting next month as well. So I think that would be good.
Okay, no, thank you. It's just kind of a confusing sentence, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Counselor Frankowski?
Through you, Warden. Under page 45, under update on projects, Lori, where it talks about court closures, due to lack of judicial resources, there have been 3 last-minute court closures, and then those cases have to be held over to dockets that are already full.
Yeah.
And then an incident report submitted to the Ministry of the Attorney General. So I guess my question then is how does the ministry respond when you file these incident reports? Like, what's their reaction? And then secondly, what level of commitment are they offering to ensure that these closures don't continue to repeat themselves? Because if you've had, from my experience, when you have 3 failures, it indicates a systemic failure of the system.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that causes hardship on our staff as well, in our system. So what's the province prepared to do to stop this from reoccurring is the main question.
So for the reaction, I think, is simply when we report, whether it's to this particular ministry or other ministries, I think they take it as information for their reporting purposes. I don't think Perth County is alone in the system where we have court closures. So it's not just us. So I don't think the reaction is perhaps a sense of urgency or anything like that. It's basically when we have that court closure, we report, I believe, what the backlog is. In terms of their commitment, I know the legislation has changed to download some of the authorities to the court clerks. And I think the idea of that is to be able to work through some of the cases that they don't need to come forward, that they can be dealt with more expeditiously by having the court clerks deal with some of the administrative matters that the Justice of the Peace used to. So what I will do is I will ask Annette to speak to that directly, that actual commitment piece. She will have had conversations that I would not have been part of when it comes to the ministry, but it has been very frustrating. It's been frustrating for staff, and it's been frustrating for the public in terms of trying to get this court system so that we don't have these types of closures. There's a lot of prep work that goes into preparing for those particular days, and when everybody is ready and they are prepared, and then last minute we don't have a justice of the peace, that's a problem. And I know that the ministry has been trying to have other justices of the peace that perhaps aren't normally scheduled here to be able to be available, but I'm not sure that's obviously been working. So we will follow up on that. That's a great point. And I think we could outline perhaps what the impact is to our staff in terms of their workloads and how we plan to remedy that.
Good, thanks, Lori. That's the remedial action plan. That's the key component here that I think is missing from the ministry. So I appreciate
for sure.
Appreciate the follow up
Yes.
by yourself and by Annette. Thank you.
All right.
Counselor Kassenberg?
I'm just sitting here waiting to pounce. I figured Councillor Trentowski was going to go there. I'll take it the next step. I think we should ask staff in this next report or as a next step to prepare a resolution on behalf of this council that would ask the province to get involved in solving this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because here we are, we're sitting, as everyone said, there's frustration, there's money,
Mm-hmm.
and there's failure in the system, as Councillor Trentowski has eloquently put it. I think it's time that we tell the province we're not happy about that. They need to get their act together.
Mhm.
Okay,
Happy to bring that.
any other comments, questions? You wish to add that to a resolution?
I do. I think we should direct staff to prepare an appropriate draft letter or approach to comments to the ministry of the Attorney General to address these deficiencies and request an action plan.
Okay, so
Tyler, you got that?
that's what he said, and then we'll have received the corporate services August 23rd report for information. So do you want to move that? Moved by Councillor Castleberg, seconder, Councillor Trankowski. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're going to move to general insurance renewal. We have Corey with us this morning. So good morning, Corey. The floor is yours.
Morning, and council. This report is in front of you. Essentially the municipal insurance market of being a hard position is seeing some softening in that position. Within the reports, there has been discussion in relation to the municipalities to do a joint proposal and to continue with the pool the assets of our resources and combine the efforts and to potentially select a insurance provider in 2024. So the report is there. If there's any questions in relation to the report, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, questions of the report? Councillor Smith?
So through the warden, thanks, Corey. So just so I heard correctly, if we decided to send for an RFP, we would be asking the lower tiers to join in as well? That's my question.
Yeah, through the warden, that is correct. To Councillor Smith, would be reaching out to combine that effort to get out and go as a joint proposal. The proposal itself would essentially still be on the individual municipalities, but they would be able to also make their own decisions in relation to a provider, but they would be in combination with the county for a proposal to be sent out in the early part of 2024.
Thank you.
Councillor Castleberg?
Two questions. First to Mr. Bridges, how many insurers are working with municipalities to your knowledge in Ontario at this point in time?
That market is very small. The major players in relation to municipal insurance are, I believe, down to 4 that make up majority of the market. That being Intact, Aon, our current provider, Marsh, as well. Those are and BFL. Those are the essentially municipal major players.
Thank you. And can you comment? I don't know whether you have this insight, but certainly it would appear that that our organizations, AMO and Roma, have been talking about insurance issues for municipal governments. And I don't know what the state of that, how advanced that is, but perhaps you can offer comments to your knowledge about that.
Through the warden as well to Councillor Kasenberg, those discussions continue to occur, and nothing essentially has come out of where that's going to land in relation to the insurance impacts to all municipalities within Ontario.
So it is premature then to expect that we're going to see something if we took immediate action on this.
That is correct.
Okay, other questions? Councillor Aitchison?
I know we did some sort of similar route here the last time I went out for RFP. First South did not want anything to do with the one that came back from the county. We went on our own and got a better price. And the problem I have with sending this out along with the lower tiers is every municipality has their own different liabilities. Everyone has to be assessed individually. And that goes back to accident claims and things you maybe haven't done as a municipality to protect the best interest of the insurance provider, et cetera, et cetera. I know there are some municipalities that are struggling to get insurance because they haven't taken the necessary steps or whatever to ensure that they're operating in the best possible light. I honestly would like to see this to go to RFP now. And see if you can get an extension for 3 months, because they're not gonna put this together in a couple of weeks. But I honestly think, I know when we talked about insurance last year, we said we would go to an RFP. I'm sure of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think it should go out to an RFP now and not wait till next year. My opinion.
Okay, other comments? Councillor Orr?
Yes, we own a insurance brokerage in town. So I would step out, but if Or Insurance was ever involved, but I want to just say, like, brokerages have different opportunity, like, we can get you better deals. I know that Huron and Oxford through a broker have saved tons of money. And I think that we should go ahead and try to get this to RFP. I thought we were going to do it for this term. So I think we could save ourselves some money. I'd like to see us, I'm not saying Or Insurance specifically, but I'd like to use a broker because they can be impartial. They can get you exactly what you need. And I'd like to see us try to save some money that way.
Councillor Castleberg?
And I'll add that certainly North Perth has sort of a broker of record that has been selected that manages our insurance requests and administers competitions for the purposes of identifying insurance providers. So I think I'm in line with Councillor Orr's suggestion and generally agree with Councillor Aitchison's suggestion as well. I think that it's probably time to act on this. The question is, do we act would our actions invite an insurance broker into our fold, or would our actions actually go right to the insurance providers, the policy providers? And that's, I think, if I'm understanding how it works, the question that we have to decide at this point. If we were to procure an insurance broker, that might extend the process a little bit, because then they're going to do the work to find the best policies for us and the best providers, right? Maybe Councillor Orr, because of her professional insight, could comment, but the clock is ticking, and I think that's the piece of the puzzle that worries me just a shade.
I have no professional insight. Yes, I am a part owner of Or Insurance, but I don't have my my legal papers or anything like that. It is more my husband and my brother-in-law that own it and run it. But I do sit around a table and I know that there are municipal markets. There are people that have saved considerable money. I do know there is a big broker up in North Perth as well. I think broker is the way to go. Yes, that's on me, but anyway, I think we need to move on this. I don't want to see us delay, and I would like to use a broker.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor Aitchison?
But I think we give it, when you send it to RFP, you send it to every possible person that might provide it. You can send it to your 4 big guns, but I would also include the brokers, because, but actually the brokers, I honestly believe, would be representatives of some of those bigger corporations. I know our Optimus Club had some extra liability insurance because of all the potential lawsuits over holding venues in our hall, and we got it through Or Insurance, and it was with Inc, which is one of the big players in the insurance business.
Mr. Councilor?
So if I might suggest this, and to build again on Councillor Aitchison's suggestion, I think that if we do issue an RFP, we need to sort of issue 2 possibilities, right? We would entertain the procurement of a broker, or we would entertain direct proposals from those who provide this insurance.
You entertain the best possible insurance price.
Because that's what we're seeking, yeah.
Okay, anyone else? So who wants to move what? Councillor Aitchison?
I'm gonna move, we send it out to RFP immediately.
Do you want to stipulate who it goes to?
And we can send it to brokers and the regular providers. For the chance to get on the process.
Okay, and then I'll add that we received the 2024 general insurance renewal report in that motion.
Sure.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Kassenberg? Do we need to put in there about asking to extend our existing policy?
Well, I think that's kind of a
That's
gimmick. You
given.
gotta extend it, you don't have any. I think there has been some discussions perhaps, I don't know. We're pretty late getting it done last year.
Corey?
Through the warrant, just some direction in relation to Councillor Aitchison's resolution. So it's to go to RFP immediately, but also incorporate the purpose of a broker. Like, would you essentially separate those into two and do a broker proposal and a out to tender to the actual insurance provider proposal? Like separate
If I might,
in two RFPs.
if I might,
Councilman?
I mean, you know, RFPs can and often do say we would entertain alternate proposals, right? So you can go out to market for widget X, and often an RFP will say, but if you have an alternate proposal that will meet our purpose, we would entertain that. And so from that context, I think a single RFP that says, and perhaps this is a little bit of work for the procurement people, but that says we would entertain proposals from brokers to become vendor of record and deal with our business, or from insurance providers who will directly quote in the policy. And we would expect that the brokers would bring information about the costs that they could bring as they propose to become a vendor of record. I think that's how you would structure it. So it would be a single RFP if you ask me, Mr. Bridges.
You got a director of corporate services that could steer you in the right direction.
I think so.
Okay, Lori?
Thank you. Through the warden, we can certainly do that. And we do have in our delegation of authority bylaw, authority to extend those types of agreements, but it would be good, and I'd always want council to be aware that we would be extending an agreement for 3 months in order for us to proceed with this. So part of the resolution could include that. That would be appreciated. So it's clear, it's on the record.
Okay, so is the mover and the seconder good with adding that? Okay. Okay, any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're going to move to Public Works and Road Network rationalization. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Warden Eggets, and good morning, council. This report is to remind council and inform our new councillors of the county road assumption process. The process was developed back in 2020 when we were dealing with the upload of a portion of the Wayland line, which was a boundary road between Perth South and Lucan Biddulph. A road rationalization process should be completed periodically for the county's road network. And the intent is to confirm that roads that serve as a through function or a through traffic function or a connecting function be designated as county roads, and a road that serves a more local function level. Similarly, the process considers local roads that may be functioning at a higher level or class of roadway. The report outlines the process and criteria involved with the road assumption process. Of note, this process should be undertaken once per term of council and would involve the establishment of a committee made up of council and public works staff. County staff have notified our local PW managers and directors of this process. And following this council meeting, we will be providing a formal correspondence to the local clerks. To date, there is no indication that there will be any roads that would be subject to the 2024 road assumption process. And if that remains the case, then there will not be the need to go through the process. That being said, we have had discussions with our local public works leads on roads that could be subject to this process in the future. So while this process may occur once per term of council, we are working collaboratively in the background for better transportation planning and management of assets to better inform future road assumption processes. And if there's any questions, we have to answer.
Okay, any questions for John? Councillor Aitchison?
So you, in that there, you said there are no roads that really, so the request was made for the Whalen line. So is that still gonna be looked at? Because that is a flow through road or whatever you wanna call it. And the traffic volumes are way higher than 163, which is a county road.
Through the warden, I believe you're referring to Perth Road 151 and
So 151, sorry, yeah.
63.
Yeah.
And again, through this process, we've instructed that if any of these roads are to be uploaded, of course, traffic counts and current traffic counts are necessary for this process. We did upload a section of the Whalen line back in 2020. And that was sort of initiated through a process with the Middlesex County road assumption process. If my memory serves me correct, it was more because the road was functioning at a higher class of roadway, or that section was functioning at a higher class of roadway. And the maintenance of that roadway was difficult at the local level. The other sections of Whalen line are certainly part of those discussions which we have had with Perth South and could be subject to future road assumption processes as well, because it is a boundary road still between Perth South and Lucan Biddulph, could be subject to Middlesex County's road assumption process as well. So to date, there's as I say, nothing's final.
Well, I'm sure you'll be hearing from us on that one.
But yes, to date, we have no roads currently through this process.
We did the county a favor, we put another lift of asphalt on that chunk of road this year. For South Whalen line. Part of our tendering and construction work. The traffic volumes are phenomenal on the road. We did see traffic counts in 20. And I'm sure there is higher now. But we can get them done in a hurry.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, we have a motion that council receives the road network rationalization report. Moved by Councillor McDermott, second by Councillor Smith, all those in favor, carried. Okay, we'll move down to council reports. Anyone have any council report?
Can
Go ahead, Councillor.
just wanted to mention, we have a municipal shared services this afternoon, but Spruce Lodge, we had a meeting. Maybe Councillor Smith wants to speak about this too, but I am still concerned about agency costs. It's not out of the woods. They were doing very well, and then I think it was July, it took a turn for the worst again. So yes, they are going to do their budgets, and they're going to possibly do worst case scenarios, but I would not say that Spruce Lodge or any of the lodges or any of the retirement homes are out of the woods. Agencies are still taking advantage, I believe. Just want people to be aware.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any bylaws, notice of motions. Other business. Announcements. I just have one on Saturday. The G2G Trail is having a ribbon cutting at 4 p.m. Behind the Innovative Inc. in Millbank. And that's to commemorate the new bridge that they put in and I think just the whole trail. So there it is a fundraiser too. If anybody wishes to come, there's also an opportunity to get on your bike and arrive at the ceremony on bike, which I will not be doing. I will come in a car. But anyway. Just so everyone knows, Councillor Aitchison.
comment on that. So I had a police service board meeting yesterday and I know I discussed it with traffic police. More and more, and the days are getting shorter and shorter. You'll see people going out for bike rides after work. God bless them. So good for them getting some exercise. But what I'm also seeing is none of them will put reflective type clothing on. Or I shouldn't say none. A few do, but very few. And when it starts to get dusk and maybe a driver's driving into the sun the few days we get it, like they're in a great liability there. Perhaps somehow through this G2G trail or something, there has to be some sort of public information that if you want to go out and bike on trails, that's good, but they don't stay on the trails. They do get on some roads. They're on roads to get to the trails. There should be more awareness of safety that they should. Precautions they should take when they're on the road with their bicycles. As you're seeing more and more cyclists or pedestrians are getting picked off by vehicles. It's just a thought.
Okay, any other announcements? If not, we do have a need for a closed session. So I have a motion that Perth County Council move into closed session at approximately 9:50 a.m. in accordance with section 239 of the Municipal Act SO 2001C.25 to consider a matter pertaining to labor relations, HR, a matter pertaining to negotiations, paramedic services, a matter pertaining to labor relations, paramedic services, and a matter pertaining to negotiations, paramedic services. We need a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Trankowski, second by Councillor McKenzie. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks everyone for coming this morning and everything else. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And you'll be just a few minutes here. We'll go into closed session. Okay, we have a bylaw 3943-2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the County of Perth at its regular meeting held September 21, 2023, is read a first, second, third time and finally passed September 21st, 2023. Moved by Councillor Duncan, second by Councillor McDermott. All in favor? Carried, and that the council be adjourned at 10:58 a.m. Moved by Councillor Orr, second by Councillor McDermott. All in favor? Carried. Great. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.